I believe we will see multiple short squeezes before we actually get into the mother of all short squeezes. But those multiple short squeezes might happen sooner rather than later, just because, you know, the market right now is in a very weird position, all right? And because of that, people are focusing more on maybe one or two things, which are we going to be in a deep recession, or are we going to have, inflation still remaining at high levels? But because they are so much focusing on that, and especially after the Federal Reserve, mentioned that they are committed to do whatever it will take to bring inflation down, that people tend to even overlook the real data, the real facts coming from the market that is actually telling us another story, which I believe if you position yourself right, especially in stocks like AMC, you will be seeing multiple short squeezes because people are going to get murdered. And I'm talking about people on the wrong side of the trade. You got it, the short sellers. Let's get into it. Now, because of the Federal Reserve, being as hawkish as they ever been, all right, people are now focusing on the fact that, well, good numbers coming from the economy showing signs of strength will signal to the Federal Reserve that, hey, we have the green light to actually continue to be hawkish. And that's why the market is, people are taking money off the table of the stock market, hence creating this additional, it makes things easy for the short sellers because, the volume has dried, because people are not really buying, whether it's, the funds, especially the big guys with the big pockets, because when it comes to the retail investors, things are totally different, and we already showed you, the buy sell ratios. Now, but the thing is, those people that are people that are taking money off the table, hence it reduces the volume, but it also creates, a market where the short sellers might be in control. But that will not last as long as we think. Here is why I think. When you look at some of the data, you have another sign that high inflation is starting to wane. High inflation starting to wane because the cost of supply chain issues is actually decreasing. But on top of that, you have news coming from the manufacturers that, hey, we're seeing a drop into things that are causing inflation to remain high. We have this index, the PMI and the Institute of Supply Management. You can see a drop from 252 from 60 in the prior month, a recent peak of 87 in March. So things are definitely improving there, meaning that these whole supply chain issues that are actually also causing inflation to remain high are also decreasing. On top of this, you do have inflation starting to drop like a rock, saying this other strategy on the market. And the points he makes are very, 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 very bullish. Look, 42% of the CPI components are declining from recent high, which is deflation, meaning inflation is going back down. Not only that, you have these 5 regions represent 49% of the GDP. So we have a CPI annualized at minus 3.96%. Outright deflation there, meaning inflation is still cooling very, very rapidly. In addition to this, leading inflation indicators like used car auto price, airfares, and real estate suggest that many other components of the CPI could start falling outright. Now, what does it tell us? It tells us that because the market is so focused on this inflation and the Fed, they are not looking at these numbers. But in reality, we might see the CPI drop even further, for the month of August. So if we get that, definitely it would change the path of the Fed policy. We will have the Fed coming out and telling us, you know what? Maybe we don't need to overdo, because if we do overdo, then it's a bad thing. Now, how does this whole thing relate to AMC? The thing is, as I mentioned earlier, all of this thing has to do with the market trend. If the market trend is creating, a very easy environment for the short sellers to be on top, to have, strength, then there's no wonder the price is dropping like a rock. All right. Now, when you have a reversal that, in reality, when you look at the facts and numbers, the Federal Reserve doesn't have to do what it said it will do. That will cause people raining right now, the shorts, to start rushing through the door, because it means that people are going to start buying, including stocks like AMC. And that will ultimately create them to get burned. And when they get burned, that's when we have those multiple short squeezes, the gamma squeezes, et cetera, ultimately leading the price to a new high. Because whether you want to believe it or no, the share price cannot just continue to drop indefinitely without any significant real, reason to justify it, even if it's a manipulation. So even the manipulation at some point has to stop because nobody has infinite money.